Hello to all of you Tristen Low Show podcast listeners. This is Frank Mandolini. You may not recognize this voice. I am the Italian podcaster who talks about the business side of wrestling. Yeah, I know, it's quite niche. But if you look for last minute wrestling podcast on all of your social media and wherever you get your podcast, you've been amazed to find interviews with people such as Rob Van Dam or Matthew Gregg from Botchamania and many others, so you get to know many aspects of the wrestling business that normally you don't hear in wrestling podcasts. Because let's face it, who wants to hear another guy talk about Monday Night Raw? Yeah, me neither. So guys, go to lmwpodcast.com or search for LMW Podcast everywhere in the interweb. And remember guys, this is Frank Mandolini from the Last Minute Wrestling Podcast, and you stay safe.
The views expressed in this episode are those of the guest and not necessarily those of myself and the Tristen Law Show. This is the Tristen Law Show, where I introduce you to the personalities in and out of the pro wrestling ring. The unique part is you don't have to be a pro wrestling fan to enjoy this podcast. If you don't believe me, well, I guess you've got to stick around until the end to find out. I'm Tristen Law, and I hope that you've hit the subscribe button and that you like what I'm doing, because I'm doing what you like. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, don't forget the 5-star rating, and of course, don't forget the review. This is episode 11, and I want to take a second to shout out my day one listeners. If this is your first time, welcome to the family. New episodes drop every Wednesday, and of course, don't forget to subscribe, because it's free. Last weekend, I stepped back into the pro wrestling ring to perform in front of a paying audience, which I haven't done since March 2020, because we've been underneath a pandemic. I want to send a shout out to everybody associated with SWF, and a huge thank you to the fans who came out to SWF Resurgence in Colts Neck, New Jersey. Amid a pandemic, you guys all came out with your masks on to be entertained. I hope we got the job done for you. This episode, I'm going to introduce you to Mysterious Q, who represents Parts Unknown, New Orleans, and Texas. He is currently ranked at number 499 out of 500 on PWI's top pro wrestlers in the world. Q and myself talk about how he got the news he was among the top 500 wrestlers in the world, his goals when he left New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, how he got into pro wrestling, and much more. For those of you who aren't familiar, PWI, or Pro Wrestling Illustrated, hit newsstands in September 1979. PWI started ranking the top 500 wrestlers in the world in 1991, and then annually since then. Pro wrestlers from Hulk Hogan to anyone you can possibly think of have been among the 500 one time or another. When I return, I'll be accompanied by this year's Mr. 499 himself, Mysterious Q. Don't touch anything, because I'm Tristen Law, and I'll be right back. Hey you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. That shirt you're wearing is so not cool. Why don't you head on over to TristenLawShow.com and get yourself a new shirt. Not only will you be cool, but you'll also be supporting the show. What are you waiting for? Go now and get a hat too while you're at it. Thank me later. We're the show at TristenLawShow.com. Welcome back to the Tristen Law Show, everybody. I hope you're having a great time. Our next guest at this time is a former two-time ROW Reality of Wrestling Texas champion, former ROW TV champion, and two-time Reality of Wrestling champion. Pro Wrestling Illustrated has ranked this man number 499 out of 500 top pro wrestlers in the world in their PWI 500. All the way from Parts Unknown, I'd like to introduce you to the franchise, Mysterious Q. Q, what's going on? Welcome to the Tristen Law Show, man. How are you?
Man, what's up? Thank you for having me on the show, brother.
Hey, man, brother, it's good to have you here. Number 499. Let me tell you something. Every year that you've never seen me on the PWI 500, I just want to let you know that I was number 501. They don't ever post 501, but I'm there, and I'm glad. Welcome to the list, brother.
Thank you, man. I'm more than happy to finally break through that barrier, bro.
To start this off properly, because I know everybody that is a wrestling fan wants to know this, and I'm sure people that are not wrestling fans want to know as well, too. But for once and for all, I want to get to the bottom of this. Q, where is Parts Unknown?
Man, it's like right under that, like there's like this planet, like Planet Vegeta.
Ah, yes.
So it's like by Planet Vegeta, but like it's right like off of Elm Street. So like off of Elm Street on Planet Vegeta, Parts Unknown is somewhere like in that region.
And you need a flux capacitor to get there, right?
So you need like a Nimbus, like a Nimbus cloud.
I have to upgrade. Okay.
Yeah, get you.
All right, cool. In my opinion, being ranked on the PWI 500 is a great feat, as you're being recognized, if my math is correct, by the oldest pro wrestling publication still out. What did it mean to you to get ranked to number 499?
Man, it was like a whole lot of different meanings, because when the year started, I had told myself like I was going to buckle down and like try to get some respect and get my name out there.
Right.
To finally like to get noticed like in PWI was kind of like the nod to me of, yeah, man, like you did that. Like you said that you was gonna set out to try to like get your name out there, and you made the PWI top 500. So I was like, man, like if I keep up with this and just like keep pushing, like with this mindset that I have, who knows like where I could be, like with the emergences of like AEW and stuff. Like if I could like really push and just get like a chance like on Dark to do something. And I was like, I know like after a while, like I could get like a chance to be on that roster. So like for me, it was just a reminder that, yo, like if you put your mind to it and put the work in for it, like you're going to get something out of it instead of just coasting with things.
What did you do differently in the last 12 months till the time that they ranked you on PWI 500 at 499 versus the year before?
I started training a lot more often.
In the gym?
And wrestling training.
Okay,
so
got
like I sort of adapted the lucha style and sort of blended that in with my style. And also like I started just traveling doing shows, because for the longest part, like I was just wrestling down in Houston, Texas at Booker T's promotion, Reality of Wrestling. Mm-hmm. So I've been there for like the longest, just wrestling there. And I heard through the grapevine through another wrestler that a promoter and another wrestler said that Q don't travel. So I was like, oh, okay. So like, let's break that misconception. And so like, I just started traveling and getting bookings, and like things started leading here and there. The one match I really think that got me on PWI's top 500 is a match I had with Dashing Chris Bay. He's in Impact Wrestling now.
Yep.
I had a match with him in Abilene, Texas at New Texas Pro Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And like, we kind of tore it up, and he has like a big platform himself. So just me being in the same room with him created a little bit of buzz for me. And so like from that match, I really think like that's the match that like kind of got me a little bit of notoriety.
When did you know that you were ranked number 499? How did you know?
Well, like a lot of people, I don't know like how people started getting leaks of their positioning, but like Twitter was just blowing up with a lot of people saying like their posts. And I'm not gonna lie, like I was sort of getting a little salty because somehow like I just knew I didn't make it. And like some of the production guys at Reality of Wrestling was asking like, hey, is any of our friends made the top 500? And in my head, I'm like, I know like somebody here was going to make it and they were going to make a big deal out of it. There's a wrestler, a female wrestler, Hyan. She sent me a group chat. Also, Gino Medina from MLW. Mm-hmm. Like we were in a group chat and he was on there. So which I mean, I automatically knew he was going to be on there. She was like, yo, and then like she sent like another one with Q, and I was like, wait, what? And I looked at it and I was like, yo, I made it. And like I can't even tell you like the feeling of like a lot of people try to downplay it and be like, well, you just make a submission to it and blah, 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 and it's just a list. But I mean, to be clear, like this is a list that I looked at back in like 2004, like even further than that, when I think WCW made a big deal that Hulk Hogan was number one.
Right.
I looked at that list from back then, not knowing that I would ever have a chance to be on it. And I made it. I found out through like group chat. I don't know, like in making it, like a lot of people kind of was just like, yeah, it's just a list. I can't stand it. I will say this: it's just a list, but it's a list that I'm on,
That's
and
right.
you're not.
You know what's funny though, Q? I've never made the list, and I've never went out there and hated anybody for making the list and not making the list. Like I've always told people, because I mentor a lot of younger wrestlers, and I always tell the wrestlers, the reason why you don't make it to the WWE or to that level or achieve what you're looking to achieve is because of who you see in the mirror. And I know when I look in the mirror, I'm the reason why I didn't achieve all the things that I can achieve. Is it too late for me? No, it's not too late for me now, because let me tell you, running around with these younger wrestlers, these 18, 19-year-olds, let me tell you, they give you a lot of life. So I don't feel that anybody should be hating on you or, trying to take your shine away from you because you made the PWI 500. If I was you, I'd be like, don't be mad that I made it. Next year, like you said, why don't you try to make it next year?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's enough sun for all of us to shine. Like all the people who congratulated me, I told them, I was like, next year, you next. Like you next. Like let's all get on there as a presence. Like let Texas have a good presence in that top 500, man. Because I think like Texas wrestling is real good, man, and it gets slept on a lot because it's like a bubble. Like a lot of people get stuck down here. Like we have some awesome talent that came out of Texas that's on the rise now. Everywhere you see, like any major like wrestling promotion you see, to me, like it always stuck out. Like I always thought like ACH was like the best thing to come out of Texas, and he always had the best message: get your training in, and then just get out of Texas.
Right.
Get out of Texas, go travel. And now like you seeing guys like Ray Rowe, who is like Eric of the Viking Raiders.
Yep.
Keith Lee, Ricky Starks, Lance Archer, MVP, like all these guys like from Texas, like up there in a light, just showing off for Texas wrestling.
From even when I was a kid, before I got into wrestling, I always liked wrestling that wasn't native to what I was so used to seeing. So like when I was a kid, I'd always watch the Spanish channels like Telemundo, and I would always watch AAA, or CMLL. Those are the things that I would watch because I'm like, oh, that's different than WWF or WCW. So now what I do is, because I'm a wrestler and I study, I'm like, oh, let me see what Texas is doing. And let me tell you, I watch that reality wrestling not too often, but I keep up with it just enough to be like, oh, okay, I'm familiar with this person and that person. You guys on reality wrestling, man, a lot of you guys can work. And it's like,
oh yeah, man, I
want to come down to Texas and I want to work some of y'all.
Bro, yes, like we got like some good trainers down here, and like you always under like the eye of Booker T.
Right.
So like, and he pretty much puts the, if I can like explain it, almost like WWE prep style of working. So like if anybody picked us up, like we'll be like ready to do TV like that day. We're trained and learned how to do TV. And like, yeah, like nobody steps through that ring that's not ready, that doesn't know like what they're doing up here. So like here, like everybody could go, man. Like it's crazy.
My first wrestling school that I went to was Team 3D in Florida with the Dudley Boys when Bub and Devon were both in Florida. And one of the things that Bub and Devon did, and I wasn't trained at that time, but anybody that was trained and was already working shows on the indies, they pulled them off the indies and told them, you no longer work the indies, because just like Booker T, he's not putting anybody in that ring until he knows 100% that they can go, because they represent his name.
His exact words: I don't want that type of mess on my TV show under my name. He definitely like looks up the person and like lets the person know like protocol, or to see like what, just so they understand like what and what not to do. Like there's certain moves that he will not let you pull on his show. And like if you was to pull it, he'll tell you, get your bags and get the F out.
For example?
Man, there's a time a tag team executed like a spike power driver. Man, Book was hot. He told like the other, like, you fired, get the F out. The other guy was like a guy who's been with him for years and was like sort of like the head trainer, and told him like, maybe you don't need to be around here no more.
But these moves that Booker T, he's not so fond of, are moves that can actually injure people. So I understand why Booker T wouldn't want that move on his show. Because if you get your people injured, especially your students that go to the school, Booker T probably doesn't want that, that stigma with him that, oh, people come to his show and get hurt. So I can understand that. It was like
around the time, like if WWE wasn't doing it, we weren't doing it. Power drivers at the time, like destroyers, like headshots, head drops, like even like recently, I wanted to like do a move from like the second rope. It's like a backflip, fall away slam. And like Book wasn't here, but like we kind of related to him, and he was like, I want to see it. So I had to perform it and film it and then show it to him. And he was like, absolutely not. I don't need you slipping, falling on your head, being paralyzed, and then having that under my name on my show. So nah. Well, I mean, he know what he's talking about.
That's right.
So I mean, although like, yeah.
There was one time I met Booker T. It was at a show. He did 2 shows that weekend. It might have been a double shot, or maybe he worked a Friday and a Saturday. But I remember, I know for sure, I did a double shot that night, and I didn't work Booker T. I worked Tony Atlas and somebody else in the tag team. And I came all the way up an hour and a half from the double shot, from the other show to make the double shot. And I remember sitting there talking with Booker T. And you know, Booker T was cool. I was never one of those guys in the locker room, and I'm not hating anybody that does that. But I was never one of those guys in the locker room that go, oh my God, it's Booker T, let me take a picture. Like if I can sit down, to me, what was more valuable is to sit down and be like, hey Booker, let's talk about, you know, how I can get to the next level or how I can become better. And he actually offered me to come down to his school to come train for a little bit. And I was actually going to bring a carload with me, but we couldn't figure out the logistics of it. So we let that go. But that was way back in the day. But I'm glad that Booker T is out there and he's training people up the right way. He is one of the people that I would consider a Harvard of professional wrestling school. I always say that there's 2 kinds of wrestling schools. There's a Harvard and there's a community college. There's nothing wrong with community college, but when you go to Harvard, you pay Harvard money and you get Harvard education. And when you tell people you go to Team 3D or you go to Monster Factory or you tell people you go to the Booker T school, people go, oh wow, they give you a more of a look. So that's pretty cool. I'm glad that you got that underneath your belt.
Yeah, he's a good finish in school because I didn't start with Booker.
Where'd you start?
I started with Tugboat Taylor.
Okay.
So I was under tugboats for a while. It's funny because I came to Book like 3 times before like I actually like got in with him. And like I first came with like a group of guys from Tugs, and like he kind of just dropped like the price like $2,500 or something like with it. And I was just like, I'm gonna come back later because I knew everybody at Books.
Right.
And so like one of the guys was like, man, just come back by yourself. And I came back by myself, and he was like, yeah, man, you can come work out whenever you want, blah, blah, blah. You might need to be retrained. So the 3rd time I snuck there. Like I went there, like Book was supposed to be out of town. So like, I'm just like in the ring, rolling around, having a match with some of the guys. And then Book walks in. I'm like, oh damn. And like, I roll out and he's like, I see you in my ring. And he was like, why don't you and Ryan have a match? Ryan Davidson, who was a wrestler down here. We ended up having a match. And he was like, yeah, you could work. From there, he was trying to get me on the show, but that never went through. At a point, like, I quit wrestling. Then I came back, and like, I was like, man, Book don't like me. He don't want me on his show, thinking like he had the heat from back in the day from me quitting. And he was like, nah. So I did that 1 match back with him, and he was like, brother, you can work, whatever. And like, I've been like under his banner ever since.
That's pretty cool that you still had the opportunity. It's one of those things where it's not meant to be right now, but it's meant to be later on. You got to take advantage of that. Back to the PWI 500 real quick, Q. Next year, if you could rank yourself on the PWI 500, what number would you give yourself and why?
Man, maybe like 460, 450. Because, man, like, it's still like I'm playing catch up now. Like with the shows that I have left for the year, like I'm playing catch up, and like every show that I do, I have to come out, and I almost feel like there's a stigma under being like on the PWI, because it's like, do you come out with like crazy indie stuff, or do you just like be like super fundamental, crisp and clean? I'm trying to bring like a little bit of both, but just having like, oh damn crazy, oh my God moments, but also being crisp in my stuff, and trying to like just be like a hybrid, man, because I'm a sort of a big dude, right? But I'm trying to like do stuff that like maybe smaller guys do. I'm just not trying to limit myself into just being like a big guy doing big stuff. Right. So I don't know, probably like around 450, 460, mainly because of my versatility. And I got like some stuff that I'm trying to practice on. So like I haven't seen out there, so I know like if I hit it, it may be like a viral clip that'll go viral for like a weekend or 2.
Hey, well, when you do it, bro, you want to go viral, share, tag me, and I'll share the hell out of it for you. Yeah. I'm all about helping everybody else get over, because for me, I'm not one of those people that say, oh, well, because he or she made it, you know, I shouldn't make it. Because I'm telling you, bro, there's people that are on TV that I worked out with, that I went to school with, that I, you know, went on shows with, And I always look at them and I'm like, damn, you're there and I'm here doing a podcast. There's nothing wrong with that. I love doing the podcast. I still love working on the indies. My goal is to move up to the next level pretty soon and start getting my shit together. Speaking into existence, 450, that's still a great number. 460, still a great number, better than last time. But speaking about the moves and things too, when I took my hiatus, because I took a hiatus from wrestling for about, I think it was 4 years. My listeners know, they listen to all the episodes. But when I took my hiatus and I came back and I started seeing all these, younger guys wrestling that I didn't know, and I was like, wow, I'm the OG now. Like I'm not the new guy. I'm not the new guy anymore. But I started seeing all the moves that they did, and it was a lot different than when I was doing it. Every move was a super kick, or they're jumping out the ring, they want to do a flip, they're diving through the ropes, Canadian destroyers, and I started saying to myself, Q, maybe I need to do that because I need to be just like them. But then I thought to myself, you know what? Let them do what they do. Because for me, I just need to go out there and just be different and be the best version of me. But I like the fact that you're taking everything, you're mixing up what you can do, so you're not completely adopting the new style, and throwing away your own style. Yeah,
I feel you 100%, man. Like recently, Booker just had a show, and like one of the guys went out and did. He's hot right now. He has some buzz, but like he just went out and did like all these moves. And Book got hot because he forgot one little minute detail that was big, and it kind of messed up a lot of things. And then you have somebody like Gino and Brian Keith from down here. He's a wrestler down here. They go out and just like do not even half of that and tell a story and have the best match of the night. So it's, you just do you, man, like as clean as you can, man. And like, that's like a message in that. Cause that's where I messed up. I used to be super insecure looking at other people like, man, they doing this. Like Human Tornado was my guy. Like I looked at him like, if this dude's not signed, I can't be signed, bro. He's doing all this. Closer to me, home was like ACH. And I was like, this dude's good. If I can't do that, then like I can't be signed. And it took a while to just realize, bro, just do you. Do what you do that's good, because there's a spot for you somewhere you doing you. Let them do them.
I mentored this kid named Brian, and shout out to Brian because I know he's probably listening. He's 18, just graduated high school, and his dad's a ring announcer, and he's now in our pro wrestling school. And one of the things I told him the other day is that you need to bring something to the table. Because when you're standing in a room in WWE or AEW or TNA, anybody's looking at you, they're going to compare you to other guys that look like you. I told them they're going to compare you to other white guys. I said, so what are you going to be that's different? Are you going to be super kicking like everybody else? Are you going to high fly like everybody else? What are you going to do? I said, let me tell you what I bring to the table. What I bring to the table, I work really old school. Don't get it wrong. I can work that new style. Anybody want to jump, dive, whatever, I can work with all of that. But I work the old school style. I'm trying to tell the story. I'm going to put you in that rest hold and let you work up and let the fans come up. Then I'm going to drop you down, drop an elbow on you, cover you, maybe put the foot on you or whatever it is. That's what I bring differently to the table, because I think that everybody thinks now, a lot of younger guys think, Q, is that in order for them to get over right now, they need to go ahead and do the flip moves. No problem. There's eight matches on the card. But out of those one match that's on the card, you want to see mine, and there's not going to be any flips. There might be her super kick, but it might get ducked and put into something else. But I'm going to be different. I'm going to be something different on the buffet. That's just the way I look at it.
I sort of talked to Ricky Starks in a group chat, like with people, and I've like heard him kind of vent about the business a lot. And like he'll tell you he'll have the same mentality as you. And he's like, the thing that he brings, he can go and get over before the match even starts just by a promo.
Yep.
Cut a promo, and there's like another guy down here, Ryan Davidson. By far, to me, the best promo guy. Like he could be up there like with guys in WWE on promos. He would just go out, cut his promo, make it super easy for whoever's coming out to face him.
That's it.
And like there's other ways to get over. And like Ricky's the more latest idea of that, because he's in the era of guys who do the flips and the destroyers and everything. And he just goes out there and works and cuts his promos, and like you remember him at the end of the day.
I agree with what you're saying, what Ricky Stark say. I usually 99.999% of times I am the heel. By the time I come out, I need you to hate me so much. You don't care who comes out. The janitor could come out and his music plays. You're just happy that he's here to shut me up. And even if he tries to beat me, I'm going to snatch it away from him. Get that janitor over, and they're going to look at me and be like, okay, cool. You know what? Maybe next time, if you didn't have to cheat, maybe you would have won. And that's the story. That's the psychology, Q. And I feel like you get that. And I feel like Booker T's teaching that because the younger guys don't get that. They want to go out there and do the Canadian Destroyer. They want to do the super kicks. You know what? To me, the super kicks and the Canadian Destroyers, they're not bad. But they just have to be placed properly, and people just have to sell them properly.
Exactly. Opinion. That's exactly what I keep going back to Booker. He said this exact same thing at the last taping we had, and he was just like, "You out there just doing moves? I don't care about moves." And he kind of looked, and he was like, "All right, well, I do care about the moves, but they got to make sense. Right. Put them in like a realistic spot." And like to the other degree, I think also the circle of friends you keep in the business too will help keep you up to date and on like the right path from doing wrong. Because like a lot of the friends that I have in the business, like we'll ask each other to critique something, or like if they see something, they'll call it out, or they'll just like share something that's just totally wrong, horrible in a group chat, and you see it and you sort of make fun of it, but like in making fun of it, you're critiquing it, and right. is burning in your head like, all right, let me make sure like I don't do that. That's and as right. you bring other people on with you, like you kind of guide them. So it's also, again, like the circle you keep also around here too.
Agreed. 100% agreed. I always circled myself with people that like-minded people that wanted to make it in the business. You know, don't get it wrong. There's nothing wrong with people that want to just do it on the weekend. But I always encircled myself with people that wanted to make it. We want to go to tryouts. We want to go to seminars. We want to learn professional wrestling. And, you know, the world of professional wrestling, for people that are listening don't understand, it's so different. The way that we wrestle here in the Northeast, and I'm talking about New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, is way different than the way that they do it up in New England, up there in Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut. You know, the way that they do it down in the South is different. You know, the way they do it in California is different. And people would just think wrestling is wrestling, but it's just like a dialect. You know, one person from the north side of Chicago don't talk like somebody from the south side of Chicago. And right. and that's pro wrestling. Right. Speaking about cities and towns, Q, after Hurricane Katrina, you left your home in New Orleans for Texas. What did you leave behind in New Orleans, and what were your goals for Texas?
Man, boy, I lost a lot. Mainly my dog, which I was so pissed last minute we decided to leave her with the neighbor. So, like, I lost that dog. I lost a boatload of WWE, WCW pay-per-views. I had a bunch of, like, this is back in the days of VHS. So I'm pretty sure like a lot of your listeners now don't know what a VCR is, but this is back in the days of VHS tapes, and they had the little illegal cable box, so you could, you could watch it. You could watch and record the pay-per-views and stuff. So like it was during those days. So I had all those. I lost all those, like a good majority of it. My Letterman, my senior ring. But like when I was coming to Texas, because this was like my senior year, and like I had kind of like lost drive to do anything. Like going to college kind of just like went out the window, because like I didn't know if I was gonna play basketball. But like when I was coming to Texas, I know like I had the mindset of just starting over and trying to be somebody who was friendly, because I was a super shy kid, so I didn't talk to people much, and I always had this mean look, people said. I was just trying to make sure, like, when I came down here, it was a fresh start to be friendly and talk to people and be, like, sort of a likable personality. At the time, like, wrestling was nowhere on the table or in, like, my mindset of something to do until, like, probably like a few months after I graduated.
You're talking about those VHS. Let me tell you, I have a box full of VHSs in my closet. And I have a VCR years ago, years ago. And I'm talking about 2007 when I was working in Florida at the AT&T store. My manager came to me and said, hey, man, my wife is making me get rid of these. And I know that you're a wrestling fan. Would you want them? And the way that they have it set up is that they have the Sunday Night Heat. And then after the Sunday Night Heat, they would have the pay-per-view that would come on after that. So if we ever meet up someday, Q, maybe you and I cross paths when we get to AEW or W something, I'm going to bring that VHS and we're going to watch some of those. That's exactly what the hell we're going to do, all right?
That's a bet. That's a bet.
Because those bring back so many memories, bro. You're talking about the illegal cable box. I remember when my mom, there's a big thing that we used to do back in the Bronx back in the day, and it was called skate key. So if anybody's from New York City or you're from the Bronx, you know what skate key is. It was a roller rink. So back in like 98, 99, I was maybe like 13, 14, maybe almost 15. And one of the things that you would do on a Sunday night is you would go to Skate Key. But me, I was a wrestling fan. So I know I want to watch the pay-per-view. That was before the time of when you had DVR or you can go online and watch it again. So I needed to be there.
You have to watch it live.
Right, I need to be there. I need to watch it live. And I would watch Sunday Night Heat, and I would watch the pay-per-view right after, and I'd be so enamored. I can't wait until Monday Night Raw just to see what would happen. And I was such a wrestling fan, man. People don't understand. That's why I got into wrestling, because I genuinely love wrestling. I love being a fan of wrestling. I love going to events, because sometimes I say I got to get entertained. But I love wrestling, and I always want to be able to give back to wrestling.
And that next day after the pay-per-view, couldn't wait to get to school and talk to all your friends about it.
What? You know what's so funny, Q? Back in the day, these kids, they don't understand how easy they had it. So how old are you, Q?
I'm 32.
Okay, so I'm only 3 years older than you. So I remember when we used to go to school, right? We'd be sitting down the next day after Monday Night Raw. If you missed it, you missed it. Yeah,
you missed it. You was done. Unless somebody recorded it for you.
Right.
But you missed it.
Right. Let me tell you, we would record it on the VHS, and then sometimes my mom didn't like us watching no wrestling, but we would watch it. These kids don't understand how easy they have it. You know what? Let me just go watch it on the YouTube the next day.
Yeah, super. Like, we have to hear people tell us about it, which made it that much better at times. Because you hear stuff about the NWO, and I remember they said Sting beat up all the NWO. Yep. You're like, man, I got to see this. But you really can't see it unless they show a highlight on a Saturday show or or Thunder or SmackDown.
Right. You used to get WCW Worldwide, or you get WWF Live Wire. That's how you were able to catch up with what's going on with the week. Man, we taking it way back, man.
Yeah, bro, that was man.
That attitude.
But the internet these days got it so easy for everybody. That was a struggle for us.
For real. Or let me tell you, my mom, I'm shouting her out because I can hear her roll her eyes right now. He about to talk about me. So I used to go upstairs and I used to watch the pay-per-view at one of my friend's apartments because he had the legal cable box before we had the legal cable box. So we used to be up there, man, 7 o'clock, getting ready for that pay-per-view. Man, my mother would always come right before the main event's about to come on with Stone Cold. And I would have to hear it from somebody else. I wasn't able to watch it. Man, I am mad at her, though. I am mad at her. I had to go to school.
Damn.
One of your followers on Twitter wrote that you were one of his favorite independent wrestlers when he started attending shows in high school, and now you're headlining VIP wrestling in Texas. Sit back for a second and reflect on that statement. How does it make you feel?
Oh, I know exactly how. When I first read it, I was like, damn, I feel old. I was like, hold up, man, wait, I feel old. But then I thought about it, it wasn't that long ago, and I started young, so I don't for a moment I was just like, man, if you really felt that way, man, that's what's up, man. I feel like, okay, I'm getting some sort of reach, because I don't know, it's just not like you need validation from anybody, but right. Seeing that is kind of like, okay, I'm not just throwing stuff against the wall. People somewhere are looking and following, because we were just talking about watching pay-per-views places. I remember I used to go to a Buffalo Wild Wings when they would show pay-per-views.
Yes.
And they would be all the fans. And I remember somebody coming out and people were just standing on tables. Mm. And in my head, I was like, I want to be so over that somewhere somebody's standing on the table, hype for me, when I come out. And so when somebody posts something like that, I'm like, all right, I got one. Maybe he's standing on the table. Maybe he's hyped up, talking at his friends about oh, I'm serious, Q is good. So that's kind of the air that I hold that in.
I could agree with you. I got goosebumps when you were talking about that. And because I remember watching WrestleMania 23 at a Hooters on Kirkman Drive in Orlando, Florida, right around the corner from Universal. And I remember watching that, saying to myself, man, one day I want this to be me. And even though I'm usually the heel, there's always one person at a show with a I love Tristen law sign, or, you can't break the law sign, or something like that. And I always, even though I know the role I'm supposed to play, I still feel honored at the same exact time. And I hope they don't listen to this part. I hope they skip over this part. But I always feel honored that they appreciate what I do, because I always say, and I say this on the show a million times, wrestling tickets, man, to go see the indies, they're cheap. They're cheaper than WWE, but for what somebody has to do for an hour's worth of pay in order to come give that money to us, I always try to make it their money's worth, man. And I'm honored that they always come out. And I'm glad that one fan said that about you, man, because that's, I was telling somebody the other day as well too. He was like, "Oh, well, it was another wrestler." He was like, "Oh, well, I'm not that famous." I said, "Don't say that, man." I said, "You may not be worldwide famous, but there's places that you go that people know you. People know you as Mysterious Q. They don't know you as who you are every single day, who you go to bed as, and who you walk the streets regularly as. They know you as Mysterious Q. They know you as Q. So you may not be worldwide famous, where they know you in Japan and everywhere else in the world. But to somebody in the world, you're somebody's superstar. And that's the way that we have to think about this.
Yeah, because I used to have that mindset. Like, I thought, like, if I wasn't somewhere, if I didn't make it, like, I'm all right. I need to be somewhere to be in that aura of, like, okay, I'm somebody. It slowly started to fade away, and I realized, like, I'm somebody, damn it. Like,
damn right.
I mean, I got an imprint and a mark on this business, and I will leave it. I got about probably like 20 more years left in the business. So, like, I'm somebody.
Don't let nobody take that from you. Q, what's your earliest memory of pro wrestling when you were growing up?
Being a baby, man. Like, I think, like, I was just, like, rolling over, and I just remember it's like watching somebody. I don't know if it was like Papa Sean. It was somebody. It may have been Macho Man, but like my mom says, like as a kid, like she was like, soon as I was just rolling over crying, and then boom, I just saw wrestling, and it just took my attention. Stopped crying, eyes was wide open, and I was drawn in ever since. And my family, the whole family, like immediate family, was fans. So like I always had the wrestling support. Like I know some households, you were kind of scared to ask your parents to order the pay-per-view. Not in my, I mean, if I was in trouble, maybe, but like in my household, yeah, like they was getting that pay-per-view.
What hooked you to pro wrestling as a fan?
I don't know, man. Like I just got lost in it, man. Like Sting was like my guy, Ultimate Warrior. Maybe it was the colors and being able to act like I was them. Like if I was at school walking or doing whatever, it was my escape from a lot of things, man. Right. Like I don't know, like if I could explain like how it drew me in as a kid, but like I just know, like even like as I got older, it was just a part of my life. Like I had to watch it or whatever. There was a time like I stopped watching it for a while.
Me too.
Then like I got back into it. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, cool. Like,
what made you get out of it? What made you stop liking it and coming back to it?
I don't know, man. It was the era, man. Like it's such a blur for me around this era. I think maybe it was like 2007 or 8. Like I just wasn't like into it, man. It was like it may have been like 7 or 8, because it was the time like when like the screens, the sets had like the WWE logo on the stage.
Uh-huh.
I just wasn't around. Like SmackDown was the show around that time that had like the workers and stuff. But right. It was like the early era of like Daniel Bryan. Maybe like Tyler Rex was there. It was like a lot of people who really not sticking now, who not like with the company now was there.
Right.
Like, I don't know, like it just didn't click with me. And then I think I was done with the business at that point too. So like, I was just like, nothing was just really pulling me in for it. It wasn't until I would like watch pay-per-views here and there. Always watch WrestleMania though.
Right.
I think it was the CM Punk John Cena Money in the Bank match that kind of just drew me back into it, to where I was like, all right, I'm gonna start watching wrestling again. Then I just started going to bars on like Monday, and they would show like Raw for us. So like that got me back into the groove of, all right, cool, like let's start watching wrestling again.
So while you were growing up, you mentioned Ultimate Warrior, you mentioned Sting. Who were your inspirations while you were growing up in pro wrestling?
Growing up, well, of course, Sting, Warrior, Shawn Michaels, DDP.
Okay, I saw you had a match with DDP. He was
he was in my, yeah, it was so cool till this day. Yeah. Okay. As a kid growing up, those are like my the people like I looked up to. There was a point like right when I graduated, right before like I decided to get into wrestling.
Right.
I came across like Hayabusa, and like this dude just fucking, man, like he just captured me, bro. Like the look, the aura, his stance, everything. I was like, that's who I'm gonna be. Like that's my look. That's everything I wanted to be. And like heavily influenced me, bro. Heavily. I get excited when like people be like, did Hayabusa influence the masses? I'm like, yes, because like for the longest I just thought like I was the only one who knew about him.
Right.
Like he's known for like botching, but like he had like a huge impact on like me wrestling. Like I don't think I would be the wrestler I am now if it wasn't for him. Because there was times I got lost in not knowing what I wanted to do. And I would go look at like a Hayabusa match. I'm like, bro, that's my bread and butter. That's like what I was raised in the business on, Hayabusa stuff. So like I would go back and watch some Hayabusa and just boom, remember who I was.
So I'm going to step out on a limb here real quick, Q. I see that you wear a mask, you work underneath a hood. That's the term that we use in the business. But now that you mentioned Hayabusa, I think that your mask, and I could be wrong, your mask and Hayabusa's mask has a little bit in common, right or wrong?
Yeah, very similar. Very similar. Yep. I didn't want to like steal his mask 100%. Mm-hmm. Like I added like a little bit of my mask influence to like his, and it came up like with what I had. Cause like I even wanted to face paint and stuff. And I was like, that might be a little bit too reach, but there will be a match that I will do that. And like, but yeah, man, like that dude is my wrestling idol.
So what was the moment that you said to yourself, man, I've got to do this?
And I was messing up. Like I was doing nothing around the house, waking up late, playing video games all day, just not doing anything in my life.
Right.
And I saw an episode of Hogan Knows Best, and Nick was training to be a wrestler. And I was like, that's it? I was like, I can do this. And that was the moment I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a wrestler. Because the opportunity was there to do it. So I was like, I'm just going to take it.
So how did you find your first wrestling school?
As much as we just like bashed the internet, I looked up some schools. There were like some like that were out the way, but there was one that was close, which was Tugboats.
Right.
And going to him, it took me a while because I was super shy. So like I drove past it the first time, second time, parked, walked up to the door, turned back around, got my car and left. Third time, I was like, this is it. So like I just went in. It was this dirty bum warehouse right across from Minute Mayfield in Houston, Texas. Mm-hmm. Walked in and like we talked. He put me in the ring the first day and everything just felt natural. I just went with it. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. And I caught on to a lot of things like pretty fast. They fast tracked me pretty fast.
So for me, the way I found my first wrestling school, I remember there was a website that you can go to. I can't remember it now, but there's a website you can go to, and it was pretty much like an encyclopedia for wrestling. It wasn't like a Wikipedia or anything like that. And I remember going on there and seeing all these wrestling schools, and I used to always say, man, one day I want to go to wrestling school because I always wanted to be a wrestler from when I was a kid. Yeah. And I remember seeing that Devon Dudley was associated with some wrestling school in Florida. So I emailed the school to try to get in, and it was called FXE. I know a lot of guys in Florida, in Orlando area, that actually went to that school.
You know what? I think I did a seminar there before.
In FXE in Florida?
Yeah, I think Michael Shane.
Yes.
I did a seminar there. Yeah.
Yes.
Like 2006 or 7.
Yeah.
I did one there. Devon was there.
06, 07 was when I requested to go there. I didn't hear anything. So I was sitting down and I was sitting around that time. Some guy, this is when I finally fell in love back with wrestling again. And this one guy introduced me to the dirt sheets where I can go on and read what's going on the wrestling behind the scenes. But it wasn't like, well, I don't want to say that they all were not rumors, but they had some like legit shoot news on there as well. And I saw that Bubba and Devon were opening a school in Kissimmee, Florida, and I looked to see where it was. I'm like, oh, it's 45 minutes away. And I submitted my application, and lo and behold, Bubba and Devon, they replied to me, to my email, sent me an application, called me, talked to me on the phone, because obviously they got to weed out a lot of people. And, they talked to me on the phone, and from there, I paid my money, man, and golly, man, it's one of the best things I've ever done. I wish that I was doing it with the mindset that I had now. I would have done better. But like I was just a young 21-year-old kid, 22-year-old kid. All I
but,
wanted to do
man.
was chase girls and drink. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to put my mind to wrestling, but that's how it was for me. Bring the listeners behind the curtain, Q. When was your first match? Who was it against? And were you ready for your first match?
I know it was 2006. No, actually it was 2007. Like I was supposed to have my first match like a month in, but I broke my wrist.
Damn.
So it was in Houston, Texas at World of Wrestling, which ended up transforming into like a promotion where like Keith Lee, ACH, Ray Rowe, Lance Archer, a lot of guys came through to wrestle.
Right.
It was against this guy who was one of my trainers, Eddie Lee. To answer the question, hell yeah, I was ready to have my first match by then. I had my surgery, my wrist was good. I was ready for my first match at that point.
All right, so if you can go back to your first match, right before you went out the curtain, what advice would you give yourself?
Man, you know what? I think like at that point, like I don't think I needed any, man, because I was confident. I was under the hood. I just didn't know what pose to do. So like I just went out and I was willing, ballsy enough to try a pose that I would never try now, ever in my life. But man, like it sort of just happened so fast. My music played and boom, I had to just go out. Like it was too fast to think about anything to mess up. So me first going out, I wouldn't tell him anything. Like after a while, like once the business started getting to like that younger Q, I would have kind of like pulled him back and be like, all right, hold up. There's some things like you kind of need to chill on and just like let these things work themselves out. Like don't get too emotional into things and always like give it like 100%. But that's to like a later Q. But the first match Q, day one, first match into the business Q, he was good. He was on point.
What are your goals in pro wrestling? Give me your ultimate goal.
It sort of changes a lot. Ultimately, like I just want to be like a household name on somebody's promotion, helping contribute back to the business, or just being like performing, playing with people's emotions as fans. I might be looking into like being like a chiropractor.
Okay.
And I kind of want to like see if I could play around with like a workout program that's catered to wrestling, but like athletic base. I'm trying to see if I can like mix a workout regimen in that's sort of catered for wrestlers, because you really can't mimic things in a wrestling ring. But like if I could just find like certain things that can help benefit things, movements, things that people want to do in a wrestling ring, then I'll kind of want to look into something like that to see if there's any type of breakthrough that I could find with that. It's going to take some time. That's kind of like my end goal game of trying to like contribute to the wrestling business or being like in wrestling.
I think those are two good goals, man, for you to have, for you to work for yourself and to put back into the business. So if WWE, AEW, or another big name promotion is listening right now, you're standing in a room with a bunch of other talented wrestlers. Why are you the best person to be signed to a contract?
Because one, passion, two, a believable look, and I bring a psychology and a TV style to the business, to whichever promotion I'm wrestling in. There doesn't need to be like a reset on me to retrain me, so to speak, because there's a stigma that indie guys have to be retrained or whatever. I can do both styles, TV style or like the indie style. So, I mean, main thing, just versatility, man. And like, I get the business and the style.
Right. So I'm going to speak it into existence for you. All right, Q? You're going to get $1 million and be a high-level pro wrestling star. Besides the two things that you told me before, what are some things that you would do with the money?
Oh, definitely put my mom into retirement, fix the house that we have in New Orleans. I take care of my niece and my nephew a lot, so make sure like they have money set aside. I don't know, man. After that point, like just because I'm good with, I don't need a lot. Like I'm good with, I could work, I do shows or whatever and make that salary. But like if I had like $1 million, like that's going in their bank accounts, college funds or like wedding funds.
Who is Mysterious Q?
Mysterious Q is a very competitive, silent entity. Shy at times, but definitely can be like outspoken. Definitely a protector and a good person. Well, actually, I don't think like a person can say they're a good person. That's something that has to come from like the streets and like the friends. Low-key nerd, anime head. But like all that combined into one, like some lucha hybrid competitive anime wrestling nerd who portray things that he sees from almost anything he watches into the wrestling ring.
Well, what's next for Mysterious Q? What's next for Q?
Trying to play catch up into 2020 and trying to make some more buzz. I feel like there's more of a pressure to like sort of perform and like come out of each show with a match that's like viral or that has buzz. Next is just trying to like get back into the swing of doing shows. I want to travel and do shows in Chicago and get some buzz. And there's like a Texas Grand Prix tournament coming up too. And I'm being a part in there. I really need to like put my print, but show my ass in that tournament so I could just raise my stock a bit much and like put my name out there and get more buzz than what I had from PWI. Because I really hate for PWI to be like the only buzz that I got this year, and I really didn't like live up to those expectations.
Hey, well, I'll tell you this, Q. It was fun having you, man. You're actually, it's really cool talking to you because I've never talked to you before. I never met you before. But ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. number 499 on the PWI 500. Q, how can everybody find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter under DA Mysterious Q. I'm on Instagram under Mysterious Q. I'm on Facebook under Quincy Quinn. Actually, I'm on YouTube as well under QTube. So like on all those platforms, you can find me. If I'm in your area and you want to swipe on Bumble or Tinder or Hinge, you catch me, swipe right, and we connected. I'm just playing. Somebody go hear that and get mad. I'm just playing.
Hey, well, Q, man, if you ever come to New York, man, hit me up, holler at me, and if I ever come down there to Texas, man, I'm gonna look for you, man. We're gonna get us some shows together. But ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. 499 in the PWI 500. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this interview and who will be here with me next week on The Tristen Law Show. Hey there, it's your pal Tristen Law. Do you find yourself skipping past these evil advertisements every week? Well, you should feel lucky to skip past this one because I have the solution for you. Run on over to patreon.com/Tristen Law Show and free yourself from the evil grip of advertisements. Choosing the ad-free support option, not only will every episode be ad-free, but you'll get every episode days earlier. But if you love the ads here in the Tristen Law Show, there's an option on Patreon to simply support the podcast. There's something here for everyone. Head on over to TristenLawShow.com for more info. Welcome back to the Tristen Law Show, and I hope you're having a great time. Special thanks to MNYS for I Liked You Better Before You Were on Hinge. Just search MNYS on your favorite music streaming platforms. I listened to this and all his tracks on Apple Music. And if you too would like your music played here on the Tristen Law Show, our contact information is at TristenLawShow.com. Visit the description of this episode for links to MNYS. It was my first time talking with Q, and he's a cool brother. What did you think? He reminds me a lot of Ray Pittman from episode 6. If you haven't listened to Ray Pittman's episode, I'd suggest that you do. After this one, of course. I feel Q is genuine, and he's a nice guy who just wants to take care of his family. I always say family first, well, God first. God first, then your family, then everything else comes after that. It's amazing how we both grew up in separate parts of the United States, but our love for pro wrestling is pretty much the same. Q, best of luck to you, brother, and thank you for the time, and I'll see you down the road. Next week, I'm going to introduce you to Bruno, the Meadowlands Monster. If you think you know him, you're in for a treat. You're going to see a whole new side of the big man as we talked about everything from his life outside of pro wrestling, his goals in pro wrestling, his family, and much, much more. When I tell you that you don't want to miss this one, you don't want to miss this one. I need a favor from you. Yep, I'm talking to you. Share this episode on social media. Don't make this a thing that you do Let's make this the thing that we do. Open up your front door, or if you're driving, open the windows and yell to the world, listen to the Tristen Law Show. Yeah, everyone else may think that you're crazy, but who cares what they think? Or if you're worried about being judged, head on over to TristenLawShow.com and get yourself a t-shirt. People will think that you're really cool. Rate the Tristen Law Show 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and leave a review, please. If you've already rated this podcast before, you can go back in and leave another review plus 5 stars. Reviews, they mean a lot. Whichever podcast platform you're using to listen, please subscribe to get notified when new episodes drop. The best part is that it's free. Learn about myself and the Tristen Law Show by typing TristenLawShow.com in your internet-enabled device for more information. I'm Tristen Law, and until next time, adios.